I don't consider other practices, even within the DFW market, necessarily our competitors. Are they doing like services? Yes. But they may not be delivering the care the way we are. We may not be delivering the care they are. So we're not now, there's not about like competition. The only thing that we're competing against is ourselves. We want to be, I challenge my staff, I want you to be 1% better each day in something, one thing.
Welcome to the Ophthalmology Experience, powered by Boost Patients, Season 2. I can't believe I got to Season 2. I never thought I'd say anything that I had a Season 2 of anything. So we're really fortunate and blessed to be here. And what a better way to start Season 2 than to have one of the industry titans to join us and have a conversation, Kasey Gantz. Kasey, she is definitely one of the leaders of ophthalmology, and she's the COO of Alliance Vision Institute with over 20 years in ophthalmology. She's known for creating patient-focused workflows and improving efficiency and building strong and collaborative teams. She also is an amazing dresser. If you're watching the YouTube, you can see, and she's got a super legit office and chair. So I thank you for giving me something to shoot for, Kasey.
You're welcome.
and thanks for joining. I've gotten the chance to get to know you a little better over the last 6 months or so. We did that event over at ASOA. We got to sit up on the stage and just share some nuggets. So that was fun. I'd like to continue to get to know you better, though. And so I want to start asking you just a personal question. So if you could instantly become amazing at any hobby, what would it be?
That's a hard one. Let's see. If I could, I am always in kind of dive into like self-help, self-development. I love studying like neuroscience and the human condition as it relates to neuroscience and neurology, psychology. I would probably gain some massive, brain power and know how to unlock all of the things that I've tried to improve in self development over the last, I don't want to age myself out too far, but over the last many years of administrating. Yeah. It doesn't sound so fun. I'm not really an outdoor kind of person. Obviously, like you said, back to my dressing, I'm a little bit of an inside kind of girl. I don't do a lot of outdoor activities. I want to learn to golf. I haven't learned to golf yet.
Nice.
I would love to do that, but I can drive a mean golf cart.
Okay. Well, I think whatever you did, you would definitely do it with style because you got style.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, what we do every day, I think it's really good to have you on to give your perspective because, as you know, the world of ophthalmology can be very, very rewarding. It can be very, very challenging on some days and times, and probably all of that in a single day. And so, you guys have a very successful practice in Fort Worth, and I just really would like to pick your brain, get a few things about what you're doing, some of the nuggets that you can maybe share with the people listening, and maybe some of the other administrators or physicians or anybody listening to this podcast. Just pick your brain a little bit and see what the mind of Kasey Gantz, what's going on in there. So tell me, so just to get a little scope of where you are, tell me where you are. I know you're in the Fort Worth area. How many locations you have, how many providers you have, just to kind of get a feel for that and your daily challenges.
Sure. So we're in the northwest corridor of Fort Worth, the DFW Metroplex, in an area called Alliance. And back in 2017, actually 2016, It was Texas's number one growth spurt in the DFW Metroplex. We had a huge volume of industry move here and had, industrial corporation headquarters in the Alliance area. And it was a dark spot. There was no ophthalmologist in this area. The closest one to us, from a competitive stance, would be about 12 or 15 miles away. But with the influx of over 550,000 homes in that first year that we opened our business, and mass increase of, bodies and people that needed healthcare services that we offer, it was very successful and has been for us. We're in our 8th year now. We have 4 locations. Our main office is in Alliance. We have a North Lake, a South Lake, and a Decatur location. We own an ASC.
Okay.
I have 6 total providers, 1 surgeon, and 5 medical optometrists.
So you got enough to keep you busy.
Yeah,
For
it's
sure.
it's it's busy.
Yes. And I think that what you mentioned as far as the growth of the area is very similar to what we're seeing in a lot of markets where
Mhm.
there's population growth and we're having a hard time kind of keeping up, which is, I guess, good for the future outlook of the demand for our services and business. It
Mhm.
can become challenging with trying to continue to meet those needs with the trying to find more doctors because I don't know about you
Yes.
guys, but we're continually trying to find and recruit ODs and
Yes.
MDs and just trying to figure out how to meet the demand, which I guess is a good thing if you look at it that way.
It's a good problem to consistently have.
Yeah. Hmm.
I think what the challenge is, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Guido, is I think the challenge is finding providers that align with the strategy of the legacy of what you built already.
Sure.
And that's not common, and it's difficult to do. Uh, so we spend a lot of time vetting when we're adding to our team, and we, don't interview traditionally. We kind of are really focused more on mindset, um, and know that we prefer to kind of teach our ways because they're not, par for the course.
Sure.
Um, so that's kind of how we approach it.
Yeah, that's a good point too about when you're growing the position in your practice. It's, you really want to make sure that they're aligned with the growth strategy. They're aligned with, the culture and the ethics of kind of how you feel like what's going to take to get to that strategy or that destination of where you're trying to go. So if you're a provider who said, if you're the owners and the originals that are saying, you know what, we're going to work from this time to this time. We're going to see X amount of patients. And then you have someone else coming in and saying, well, I really like to work 3 days a week and I'd really like to see 10 patients a day. It's like, well, we're not really aligning there. So making sure that you have those conversations to do the due diligence, especially as we're trying to quickly recruit and hire doctors, we can't go too fast. We've got to
Yeah.
make sure there's alignment. And that's okay. There's room for any of those mindsets. You just want
Yes,
to make sure that they align with where you're going, right?
for sure. They have to align with the needs of your practice in any given situation. I mean, we've had scenarios, and it's one of those things I'm sure that you again, are similar. You kind of trial and error that out until you just decide, like, we onboarded way too many at one time and didn't give them the ability to, strategically get into the flow of what we were doing. And you kind of have to backtrack that.
Right.
And so I think that's the other thing. Like, we recognize that in us. I don't know if you've been through that scenario, but we had a phase, probably our 5th year was like mass growth. We had built a new main office location, much bigger than the footprint of our initial startup. The initial startup was, just 6 lanes, 1 diagnostic. I mean, we opened the doors in 17 with 4 people. That included Dr. Strange, his wife, myself, and 1 tech. That's it.
Mhm.
And from 17 to 2022, we grew leaps and bounds. Built a new main office attached to the ASC, you know, from maybe 4,000, 4,500 square feet to 25,000 square feet, 20 lanes,
Mhm.
um, more providers, a mass influx of team. And we recognized during that process that we weren't necessarily doing it strategically that benefited both our employees and our providers
Mhm.
and our business.
Yeah, and that can be hard as you experience that growth to balance it in a way that keeps you moving forward, but also doesn't burn everybody out,
Yeah.
and you keep people.
Hmm.
And what is that? Sorry, what does that say behind you? Does that say hustle? Is it
It
in the middle of
says,
that?
yeah, it says humble hustle.
Okay, I like I like the humble hustle, which is a good way to describe like our like what is it we do in the day, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and for you who's been in the and me, I've been in the industry a little longer than the newer administrator. I think I'd like for maybe you give some tips like how do you because really hustle and I also like to use the word fires and putting all of that together on a daily basis. One of the things that I struggle with sometimes is helping the newer administrators and the newer managers deal with that daily hustle of everything that's going on, and they feel like they can't get moving forward. So from your time in the role and just leading teams and growing this business, how do you how do you balance that daily hustle and the fires with strategy and let's have we considered adding this service, had we considered adding this lens, and how do you what are some tips you can give it like how do you put it all together for some of those newer administrators listening?
Well, I feel extremely, extremely blessed. To be very honest with you, Guido, is that number one, I have a very good relationship with Doctor Strange. We've worked together since he came out of medical school, and so we have a trusted partnership there between admin and provider. So that's where things really have to align well, is developing a trust between you and your owner or your the practice management provider that's leading your team, so that you can understand what their needs are and then work your role in what supports and benefits them for the mission of the overall practice. So once you have that, then I also have below me in each department a department supervisor, and I'm fortunate enough that two of my clinical director and my surgical director, both of the three of us have been together in eyes for 20 years. And
Yeah.
so we have also, again, a very vetted long term relationship. So it makes it very easy. They almost already know what I'm going to say about something. So having those team members that you can delegate to as an administrator is vital. And strategically, I see my role as the advocate for the staff here that is supporting our core mission and our core values. And
Mhm.
yes, I am also responsible for new business development, new technology, determining if if it's feasible to do things, to make ads or changes to processes and all of that, just like you are. Um,
Right.
and I like to focus my every day on the team and the work of that day.
Mhm.
And I utilize my external time. Either I'm an early riser, so usually I'm up by 4 in the morning. I know that sounds crazy. My husband says I'm a vampire. I don't sleep a lot, and
Uh-huh.
we're invested and committed to what we do. So when I'm up early, I'm working on strategy of the things that don't revolve around our team and our patients.
Yeah.
So
Like
that's where I'm
not the
focusing
day-to-day
those
stuff.
things.
You have
Right.
that focus time for yourself. And for you it's
Yeah.
4. Maybe not for
Yeah.
everybody it's 4, but
Right.
But find your time where you can dedicate that, where you're not in the fire, you're actually thinking about how to move the practice forward.
Right. It's about deliberate practice and intention.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that? Like you are intentionally making strategic moves within your team and within your operations on a daily basis. Um, it's just you have to recognize what they are and plan them out.
Yeah, because if you don't, then situations are just happening to you instead of
Yeah,
deciding what's going to happen. And
right. It's just chaos.
chaos. Yeah.
Organized chaos. It can
Organized.
be
Yeah.
organized chaos, but it's still
Yeah.
chaos.
You said there was two things that I want to reiterate that you said that I 100% agree on. Which, number one, you mentioned your relationship with your surgeon. So I 100% think that that is one of, if not one of the most important key strategies that administrators can try to make sure that they nurture, is that relationship, because every surgeon, every physician speaks a little differently. They might react differently. They have their own personalities the way they want. So they've got to figure out how to kind of crack the code of
Right.
what that surgeon needs. And
Hmm.
and then once they trust you, it actually makes your job way easier because you're not fighting uphill against them. So I do coach a lot of my management team about developing and figuring out how that surgeon's going to react and how to motivate that surgeon. And the other thing too, is you said the people around you, you're fortunate to have some skilled people around you, which is the development. So even if, and this really applies too, I think, to newer administrators or managers, when they have a, when they, let's say you step into a new role, now you're managing, let's say, a location. Well, what that manager needs to figure out is, how am I going to develop these people? Because now I've got new responsibility. I can't take what I was doing, shoulder new responsibility, and do it all by myself. So,
Hmm.
whoever those people are, they need to start thinking ahead of time. I need to mentor, develop these people, and give them the trust and responsibility so that they'll actually take that on. So
For sure.
that's a huge piece that I preach to the team, is relationships with your physicians, and then don't think short-sighted and say, I need to grab these things and I need to hang on to it. I need to develop the people that are around me, because I'm only as good as the people that are going to be with me in this journey.
For sure. I mean, I think that that is so huge. I mean, if you know, do some research on, Simon Sinek or Steve Jobs, even. I saw on Insta the other day a reel where he was talking about how he had hired very well degreed people immediately to work with him at Apple. And what he found after, a month or so of having them was they didn't know what they were doing. So, and they were a little averse to doing the work in the way they wanted them to do it. So what he found was, okay, I'm going to hire people that are hungry, that are willing to hustle, that have a similar mindset as me, and train them how to do the skills, so that we're moving as one cohesive team. And that's what I do with our team. I don't know how you are with your management team. I meet with my leadership team every Monday morning at 7:30, and we have from 7:30 until usually we break at 8. It's just a 30-minute get together, and we either talk about development of a skill they need, and it's a time for us to coach, or we'll do a little bit of that, and we'll also talk about the things that happened last week that we need to address, procedures or process, or something's not working. Is there a better way to do it? It gives them a space to be part, this is their voice at the table. Um, this is not working for my team, and this is what we're all suggesting that we do. So we're so collaborative from top to bottom, and it just makes a very cohesive experience, not just for our employees. And the reason that we do that is because we have the ability to give our employees, part and parcel of being something bigger than them, which is this entirety of our group. But it keeps the employees also very focused on the patients and patient centric. They're in the weeds every day, right? Seeing and doing their best for the patient that's in front of them. And they know that their leadership team is advocating on their behalf. So we have a very bi directional relationship,
Mhm.
in a way that it should be.
Yeah, and what I heard you say that I want to make sure people pick up is the way that you collaborate and communicate is very methodical. You
Mm-hmm.
have you have set touch points. You have ways to make sure that information is disseminated, understood. There's bi-directional feedback. Make sure that if they have issues or concerns, they can come back. And then the following week, you could then follow up. Hey, the stuff we talked about last week, I didn't really get it or it didn't work for me. And then so you're having the opportunity to have those conversations because I don't know if you experience the same, especially us as if we continue to get bigger and we have so many initiatives going. What becomes very challenging is, every day there's something. Hey, um, we forgot to put this modifier on this, and there's a trending problem there. Or, hey, we're not doing as good a job as we could on asking patients if they're interested in LASIK. Or, hey, there's always some competing priority or something that we want to improve on. And so we have to continue to work on disseminating that information in a way that's going to be impactful and then they can actually digest. Because if we just dump all this information out in an email and then expect that it's done, I can 100% like it's not done. So you have to
Yeah, it
be
falls on
methodical
deaf
about.
ears.
You have to be methodical.
Right.
You have to have a cadence and you have to have a method about how you're developing and giving this information so that people understand and you help them create the habits that are going to make those things stick. So
Right.
so yeah, that's what I heard you say, and I know that you guys are successful in what you do, and I can see why.
Yeah. It's the other thing is like the um, it's about controlling the climate within the building as well, and it takes more than me to do that. There's days where I have so much happening in my office, I don't get to get up and move around the clinic, the way I do. um, like you, I'm sure we get so busy on this task, this, oh, I have to do these files and hop on this webinar or do this Zoom call. And, it's like, how can you do all things and just be one person?
Quick break brought to you by Boost Patients. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a physician, a practice admin, or maybe someone on the marketing team, and you really have a singular goal. You want new patients, more consults, higher surgery volume. And oftentimes, when you want that, you think immediately about marketing, spending more on marketing, investing more in marketing. Maybe, but probably not. We've mystery shopped over 600 practices, and there's one commonality with all of them. They're not very effective and not very good at patient follow-up. So before you invest more money in marketing and more into that investment, you really need to understand how your practice is following up with new patients. So go to boostpatients.com, fill out the contact us form, and let me know that you want us to mystery shop your practice. We'll mystery shop it. We'll document how your practice follows up with your new patient lanes, and we'll share that information with you. Now, back to the show.
We're back. Hey, Case, sorry. I guess we're starting off
That's okay.
season 2 with a bang. I don't know what the heck
With a
happened.
bang.
I know we've got there was like a disturbance in the Gulf. Hopefully that's not coming. Hopefully it's not a sign of things to come. I don't need any freaking storms this year. I just can't have it. But
Right.
let's get back into it. So you were talking about just your how you're developing and keeping it in the day and how you're keeping those things and keeping the teams developed and engaged and and it can be hard, and especially when we have all these things that are really pressing at us in different directions. And like you said, I think you were like, whenever we got cut, what you said was, you get stuck in kind of where we are now. Like you tend to all these things and initiatives, and now we're in our office, and so I don't know how you handle it. What I did was I had to put on my calendar once a week. I put a block on my calendar for travel and site visits. And and I'm gonna gut check myself. So I put it on there, and I started going out like every. We have 16 sites, and so I wanted to make sure I got out in the field, and I started visiting sites. But the last month or so, I've been cheating and using my block time to get back in my office and shut and get caught up. So
Right.
I need to get back out there and do that, because it's super important for those teams to get their hands on you, and you to be able to get your hands on them, just see them.
Yes. The one of the beautiful, and I can't imagine, I'm not in that space yet. And it's just because, our three satellite locations, none of them are open 5 days a week. We've strategically and on purpose, just two of them are 3 days a week, and the other one is 4 days a week because we're
Okay.
subleasing to another specialist 1 day a week. And so, I have, in essence, skeleton crew in those areas, one front desk person, a couple techs, and an OD in each one of them at any given time. But we set it up strategically where that those teams rotate back into the main office. So there's never a time I don't have interaction with the teams that are
Okay.
going to those locations, which is nice currently. I know
Mhm.
that's going to change. I'll probably be reaching out to you and be like,
Yeah.
give me some tips,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I mean, obviously, you don't open a satellite location with a thought that it will always work that way.
Mhm.
You do want the volume to grow in those areas. You do want them to be fully staffed and the staff to be delegated to that location. And that is our goal with all of them. But it just takes time to get there.
Yeah.
And I know that getting out to them will be something I'm going to have to do too. And I
Yeah. It gets
probably would
harder.
do exactly what you're doing. Like, oh, there's
Yeah.
30 minutes. I'm going to shut my door. We
Yeah.
have to live so intentionally.
Yes, for sure. There's something I wanted to circle back real quick, which is on the provider. And so you have six. And so with six providers, I think it's even more so where the production of every provider counts 100%. Not that it doesn't count with larger, but the smaller you get, I mean, your revenue is very dependent on the production of your docs. So how do you balance, or are there expectations that you agree upon ahead of time in terms of how many patients you're going to see, the types of patients you're going to see, what the expectations are from maybe the owners to the non-owner physicians, or how do you or even when you talk to new providers, because I think you mentioned earlier too about the maybe some of the expectations might be different from some of the physicians that you're maybe trying to recruit, but
Mhm.
it seems from the administrative side, it seems to get ever more challenging to balance the all of our increasing cost. And I
Mhm.
know I'm sounding cliche, but you look at, it's like everything we do is, it's like, oh my gosh, like these packs are going up and these costs are going up, and every employee wants a raise, and I get why they want a raise because everything is so freaking expensive, but then you have to balance that with the revenue coming in. So how do y'all deal with that with your providers?
With overall, from a hierarchy, 360 view of the practice, we're strategically focused on getting that ROI for the services that we perform that are high volume and do bring back the return to the reimbursement to the practice that supports, right, that stance. So, for example, um, one of the priority things for us is getting not having extremely long waits for patients to get to surgery. Our practice is strategically comprehensive refractive. So if we encounter a patient and that patient is ready to go when we do a cataract eval, and they see our provider, that provider's ready to recommend options surgically for them, And the patient's like, yeah, this is great. I'm ready to schedule today. We made moves to get them into counseling right then so that we could schedule them within the next week or two. Right. So we're not delaying that. And switching we were not always that way. But we switched that back in about, in 22 when we moved to the bigger location, and had a little bit more of support staff because you do have to have support staff to be able to work in that way. Um, from the providers level, we talk to them about across all locations, you know, we like to forecast a strategic number that works well and proves that we are getting ROI and uh, matching up our overhead to the return of work that we're doing, in the
Sure.
office.
Yeah.
Um, and because look, if all we were doing was office visits with reimbursement strategically, declining, um, payer structures
Couldn't make it.
feel more shaky today than they've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, I think that if we were just doing office visits, we'd be in trouble. You
For
know,
sure.
yeah.
And that's a good point too, is like maybe it's, and I don't know if how you break it down, but when you talk to the physicians about, okay, well, here's the strategic revenue number that's going to help us sustain the practice. Let's
Hmm.
kind of back into what is it going to take to get there, because I think they understand things in terms of, particular things that they need to do. So that means we need to do X amount of whatever that provider's specialty is, like dry eye treatments, or uh,
Hmm.
X amount of conversion to optical, or X amount of uh, amnio, or X, whatever it is, and then diagnostic testing, and X amount of surgical referrals, and X amount.
Right,
And so that what we do is they try to break it down into things that they can digest, and
right.
then that way it's not like some big number, like go hit your number, good luck, you know. Um,
Yeah, we have a very strategic. We have a very strategic scheduling template that we created. I know that we're both ModMed users, but ours is every provider has the exact same template. But we backed up like what we would want in a day. How many, for example, how many catavals you want, how many abilities to do adjustments for live adjustable lens, and really put the work in. Myself and the provider team to lay out what made sense. Seeing patients, it's funny that the technicians will say it's almost like a box of chocolates. Before it was almost like a box of chocolates because we did not have like very strategic appointment types. It was just new patient, right? Follow up, established follow up, or DFE, but that doesn't really tell you what you're doing with this patient. So we got very strategic on that too. Like there are no um, just uh, broad named appointment types. They're very specific. This is glaucoma, or this is glaucoma and a VF14 or a visual field 24-2, right? Or this is a cataval. This is a cataval and a council. And we got very strategic on that appointment types. And then we went in and embedded those. Every provider has the same number on their schedule. Every provider has a duplicate of their schedule, no matter which location they go to.
okay.
Um, it's kept the thought process very strategic for them, but we do have to circle back to like new technology initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when the IG consensus, when the interventional glaucoma consensus came out for more of a progressive approach into glaucoma, from our standpoint, comprehensive refractive practices can put the blinders on very easily. It's you know we know glaucoma exists within comprehensive refractive patients, but we get very, blinders on to doing surgical cases and doing the things that is the meat and potatoes of our practice,
Sure.
and can kind of lose sight of that. And so it took a bit of action to open that closet to the patients that were already established within our practice with the provider team and say, this is the reason this
Mhm.
is relevant,
Yeah, and that's
right?
a great example of something that, like you said, you can't just do it on just seeing straight visits alone. So you're trying to understand what is a good service line that we can, number one, do what's right by the patient. That's a great example because you're making
Mm-hmm.
sure that, patients are being followed up on and helping patients keep their sight. And
Mm-hmm.
then, but it's also adding an additional service line from a revenue standpoint too, because if you do it the right way, everybody wins. The patient wins because they get in and they get the care they need, but then the practice keeps that visit cadence that is going to be necessary to keep us moving forward and keep money coming in as you're adding those abilities to do that and keep track of those patients. That's a great example.
Yeah, it was super easy for us to, once the provider team, once they collaborated on how they felt about the IG consensus and is it something that we could do? We gathered the data. Do we really have that many? I mean, honestly, I've said before, I didn't believe we had a lot of glaucoma in our practice, because I've been in multi-specialty practice, previously that had large amounts of glaucoma. And it seems like there is a little bit of, depending on where you are. I have one of our satellite clinics that sees a lot of patients that have sicker eyes because it's more of a rural area. And then depending on if, where your other locations are, they may not seem to have that much. But the truth is overarching, we had a ton of patients that fit the profile, to move forward with the troops. They were already embedded in our practice.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like you had to drive some new marketing initiatives for some new laser,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
These were services we were already providing, and the patients were already here. So it was really easy to get them on board. But then you have to use data markers and benchmarks and your KPIs to,
Mm-hmm.
are we still following the same protocol that the provider team,
Right.
agreed on? It
Right.
takes time to
Right.
develop that. It's not just a change overnight.
And then all the people and systems that support it, you have to make sure that
Mhm.
it's in line. Like do y'all have a call center or do you have a team that answers phone? How does that work?
I have a call team here.
Okay.
So all of our calls go through our call team that's
Okay.
here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
And
have
we
a,
just basically followed the beautiful part of the IG protocol is once the providers decided they wanted to do it, we just started utilizing the exact same surgical funnel from an administrative standpoint that we were using for cataracts
other stuff.
patients.
Yeah.
We're verifying them, we're getting auths, we're scheduling, and doing it in the same way that we were doing any other surgical patient.
Yeah. I think what you're doing and what others are doing too, that what we have to do in ophthalmology is that we can't just be okay with the status quo. We've got to continue to look for ways to be better because
Yeah.
if we don't, then we're just sitting there at the mercy of what's coming to us and the reduction in our reimbursements and not staying ahead to where we're not serving our patients as well as we could. Maybe it's not the best experience, and it's just we can never be okay with we've got to always
Never.
keep going.
Yeah, one of the conversations I had with my staff, the whole team, this month was, it's interesting. I don't consider, like, you and I both share this big, beautiful state, and we're not directly competitors, but we both are administrators in the same kind of practice, and yours being, a legacy, right? And so I don't consider other practices, even within the DFW market, necessarily our competitors. Are they doing like services? Yes. But they may not be delivering the care the way we are. We may not be delivering the care they are. So we're not now, there's not about like competition. The only thing that we're competing against is ourselves. We want to be, I challenge my staff, I want you to be 1% better each day in something, one thing. Pick one thing for you individually and try to be 1% better each day in it. Whether it's your arrival time to work, if you're a person that's riding in the 7 minute window,
Mhm.
you know, how can you change that? How can you change your commitment to that?
Yeah, that's powerful. And you used the word legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you think about this, but I think about this. I'm not. Yes, I'm older. I'm not. I still got time. I like plenty of time, but I still think about when I leave this space, what what did I leave behind? And so,
I think about that all the time.
yeah, yeah.
All the time.
So when you think about that, what are as you start to think like what are some of the things like it when Kasey decides to do something else and take a break or whatever it is that what do you want? What do you want to leave behind?
Impact. I want to know that I impacted ophthalmology, the space that we're in. That I impacted someone who may be opposed to reflecting on their ambition or, you know what I mean, their goals for their future and developing those things. Every day, that's what I set out to do: be here for my team, mentor them. I'm hoping to not just affect their career, I'm hoping to affect who they are. And
Mhm.
I think that that part comes for me because I had a mentor um, for the bulk of my time in ophthalmology. Um, that when she retired, I was like, "What am I going to do with what are we going to do now?" You
Mhm.
know, um, and I wasn't necessarily extremely reliant on her, but she was a source, right? A daily source. And you look at these mentors that we've had, almost like the oracle. They're the all knowing, and I'm not after an all knowing oracle. I just want to know that I made an impact and made a difference in the way we delivered our health care to patients and the way my team is satisfied in the work they've done and potentially help them reflect a little on developing themselves to be open to things they wouldn't have been with their mindset.
Yeah. It, I think you're an embodiment of it, and I think your team is lucky to have that example. And really, it's by example. And that thing, I think you said impact. You didn't specifically mention this, but I think you already do this, which is the connection part.
Mm-hmm.
You're willing to share. So the
Mm-hmm.
nugget for any other administrator that's listening is, okay, well, I'm thinking about my growth and my journey and my impact. Well, how do you do that? Well, you got to connect. Like how
Yes, you have
and
to.
and be okay sharing information. I'm, I don't know about you, and I can tell by how much you share, but I'm pretty much an open book. Like, you know what? You want to, even people in town, I have a friend, a guy who we're on the board together at one event. He's in the same exact city, and we share ideas and collaborate. I'm okay with that. It's like,
Yeah.
I just want to share because I know that collectively, if we share and we provide that impact, we're going to make the industry better and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
share. So that's a huge, for me, that's a huge nugget. If anybody listens, is you got to connect and
Right.
you got to try to make an impact and be open to sharing. And I know you do that because of everything that you're involved in and sharing your knowledge and sharing your experiences is super impactful and helpful. Um,
Yes. And I think that when I first recognized that, it felt very awkward to do it. Like, because there I was reared almost probably like you. I don't think we're that far, and I think we're pretty close in age, and
Yeah.
we were
Competition.
we had, yeah, me too,
Yeah.
this year. So I think that there was a time that you didn't talk about your internal processes or your specific strategies to do X,
Mhm.
Y, Z because you you don't want your competitors to know what you're doing. I I, I just don't believe that. I really don't, and I'm going to tell you why. Because again, like I said, if it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to. You hope. I mean, we should hope across the
Mhm.
board that we rise the tide of ophthalmology across the board,
Mhm.
right? And the services that we provide and the way we give care to patients. Um, the only way we can do that is by connecting to each other.
For sure.
And
And,
it feels awkward at first because you're
mhm.
like, I'm going to say this and I'm going to look dumb. They're going to wonder what I'm doing,
Mhm.
why I'm asking this stupid question. But as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, I'm just a realist and transparent. There's nothing to hide.
Yeah.
There's no magic. People think there's that, like, you know what I mean? Have you ever been asked that?
Yeah.
Like, what's the secret sauce for how come you guys have been so successful for, you know, all of these years? There is not. There's none.
Right.
There is no secret sauce. I wish there were.
Yeah, we could dabble the secret sauce and then just relax a little bit so we don't have to work so hard.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Really, the secret sauce is, from my experience, more often than not, is the people and the doctors. Like, it's
Hmm.
just who they are, right? Like,
Right.
you tend to have good leaders, tend to have good teams because they're great people. Like, if you look at the culture of organizations, the leadership of the organization has a great culture usually because the people leading it are great people. If you have uh,
Well, you're, I think you and I are very much like this. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. Matter of fact, I prefer not to be.
that's right. I'm gonna ask you questions.
You
Tell
know,
me what you're doing.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, Casey. Well, it's been awesome, and I think you're like I said, a great example for how to conduct yourself in this industry and connect and try new things, and you'll have success. And don't worry about stumbling a few times, because you're gonna, every now and again, you're gonna stumble, and just
Yeah.
try it, and then eventually we'll all get better.
Yeah. Failure is the best thing ever. I've tried so many things and failed. I don't know
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid
Absolutely.
to admit that. You try things, you fail. My my dad used to say, "You make a plan, you work a plan. That plan doesn't work, you adjust it and you go back at it. You don't give up on the plan." You know,
Yeah.
and so I've not been afraid to fail, and we have failed on some things,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Doesn't make it wrong. It made it a learning experience, and we adjusted and moved on. So just that kind of approach, the human approach, I think.
And don't be afraid, if you do have a failure, to to actually admit it to yourself. And also,
Hmm.
don't, because if you don't have the confidence to know that, hey, you know what, we tried this and it stunk, then
Hmm.
you're going to continue to try to cover it up, and you're not going to grow because you're not confident enough to own up to that mistake, right?
For sure.
Yep. Well.
And I think people think like I've written articles. I'm like you. We've connected. You have this fantastic podcast, and I think that you can talk about all the great things and just the great things all the time, but there's way more depth than that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that just didn't work, you know, and you just don't get the glory
Mhm.
without a few misses.
That's a good idea for another podcast. I'm going to write all the things down that I really sucked at, or that didn't work, and then like tell everybody, hey, I tried this and it sucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
because
Um,
doing this for a while, you run into a lot of things that don't end up working. You got to try other stuff.
yeah. I think that's what people are like. Tell me all your pearls about this one thing. I want to know all your pearls about, I don't know, LAL or all the things you're doing for IG that are working great. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, let's also not forget all the stuff that didn't work.
That's right.
We tried this, 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 this. That didn't work, you know.
Yeah.
But that kind of gets lost in the minutia of what we
Yeah.
do because they just want the high points.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it should be said and recognized that there are sometimes things that just don't work, and you have to be willing to adjust your sales when they don't work. We learned that largely with LAL in particular. You know what I mean? Um, there's a few things that we tried that just didn't work for our flow, the way we wanted to do business, and we had to make adjustments along the way. But you can't be afraid to make those adjustments. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think we could stay here talking forever, Kasey, and
We could.
we could. I think we're gonna wrap up, but I just want to thank you again for joining me and sharing all your just what's coming out of you, because really the pearls are just having a conversation with you about all of it. Not
Yeah.
so I appreciate you joining, and thanks for also helping me step up my game. God, I need to step up my game and style for sure. Like I know I do. You got that one. You're at the top of the heap on that one.
I'm gonna get you into some colors soon.
Yes, I need colors. My wife says me I'm boring. I have everything is navy or blue or black. And I need some colors in my life.
It's okay. My husband's the same way. He's navy, gray, black. That's about it.
Yeah,
So yeah.
awesome. Well, thanks
Well,
again,
fantastic.
and also
Thank
want to
you
take
for having me.
yeah, absolutely. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And also want to take the opportunity to thank our listeners for joining us today. If you want to keep up with the podcast and interesting conversations with our guests, please don't forget to subscribe and please share us with your friends on social media. Another shout out to Boost Patients for producing the podcast. Boost helps ophthalmology practices get more new patients without spending a dime on marketing. You can learn more about Boost Patients at their website at boostpatients.com or check out the show notes. Hang in there, ophthalmology gurus. We'll get through this experience together. Have a great week.